Darin, thanks for joining us from the exhibit hall. I'll turn it over to you and let you introduce yourself, who you work for, and what you do there.
Thanks, Tim. I appreciate it. Yeah, I'm Darin Horrocks. I'm the Executive Vice President for Business Payments for Repay. And Repay was formerly known as APS Payments. And so this is our second Acumatica Summit. We did the first Acumatica Summit in July, and here at Wynn also. And during that summit was our official first introduction and rebranding of APS Payments to Repay. And I am responsible for all of the business payments division for Repay, which includes our payables and receivables offerings to business customers. So, really facilitating commerce between B2B customers and merchants and customers and vendors. So, I
Hey,
I've been with
can you help me
yeah.
out on Repay? I don't remember. Was it just a rebrand of APS Payments to Repay, or was there already a Repay organization? And if so, what did that entail before APS came along?
Great question. So Repay was founded in 2006, really as in the acquiring business credit card processing, mostly for consumer payments and loan repayments and those kind of things. And then in October of 2019, I think it was, had the opportunity to acquire APS Payments. So it was an acquisition. APS Payments have been around for quite a few years and been involved in the integrated payments space with ERPs and was one of the first Acumatica integrated payments partners here.
So without the APS Payments, Repay probably wouldn't be into ERP integrations. APS is what brought you into that space.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Repay went public in July of 2019. And with that money that was raised, it was a very specific objective to enter the B2B payment space, and specifically integrated payments through. And APS Payments was the first acquisition that was made by Repay in order to really intentionally get into this space.
Okay. I know there's a lot of payments providers in the ERP spaces. What are some of the things that make Repay a little different than the other providers out there?
Yeah, great question. So I think the biggest thing is that we, first of all, we own our own technology, and we've built really purposeful integrations for our customers in the ERP space in order to remove friction from the transactions. And then the other piece, there was another acquisition that we made in July of 2020. So about 8 months after APS Payments was purchased, we acquired a company called CPay Plus, and then another business called CPS. And what those businesses gave us by combining those three businesses together was the ability to both facilitate the receipt of payments, which when we walk around the exhibit hall here, mainly we run into companies that are facilitating the receipt of payments, make it easy to get paid from your customers, which is what APS Payments was focused on. And then with the addition of the CPay Plus and CPS business units and bringing that all together within one brand of Repay, that gave us the ability to also make it easy for our customers to facilitate payments to the vendors. So now, what really makes us different is that our customers can really utilize Repay as a one-stop shop to be able to make it easy to get payments from customers as well as to make payments to the vendors, and to facilitate that commerce through like I say, one brand. That gives us the ability to do some things like speeding up the time in which you're collecting cash from customers and being able to turn that around and pay bills, right? So, a lot of times there can be delays and a lot of risk underwriting, those types of things. Well, where we own both parts of that relationship, it really allows us to remove friction from facilitating both the receipt as well as the outbound use of those funds.
So when you say you own your technology, it sounds like some approaches are that they integrate with other solutions, but you own the stack, so you have control over everything from beginning to end. You're not reliant on other vendors under the hood on the payment side. And then on the accounts payable side, I'm curious, does that mean I can only make a payment to my vendor electronically, or could you also have the ability to cut and mail checks to them?
Yeah, believe it or not, we actually have. That's another. I guess you'd call it technology, but we own our own print and mail shop. So we process several 100,000 pieces of mail every month. We make all kinds of payments with paper still. Now, obviously, our objective is to try and digitize as much of that as possible, which increase the benefits to our customers. But ultimately, a customer can come to us and basically, a lot of times when I talk about the payable side of the business, probably the best analogy I can highlight there is that very few companies are still doing in-house payroll, right? They've outsourced their payroll to somebody. Well,
right.
What payroll companies have done for companies on the payroll side is what we've done for vendor payments for the outbound payable side. So a customer can basically say select open invoices. And right within Acumatica, select what invoices they want to pay, click, hit pay, and literally we take care of the rest. Everything from
Interesting.
the vendor engagement, the vendor validation, making sure that we're eliminating the chance of fraud and within those transactions, all of those kind of things. And we'll facilitate payments to the vendor, and we'll make sure that we make it easy for the vendor to receive it, right? Because whether they, unable to take an electronic payment, reconcile that, and they still need to get checks, we can still pay them. So, and the customer, of course, from their perspective, they don't need to worry about how something was paid, just that it got paid. And so, that's one of the major advantages of being able to terminate that process into repay. I know I shouldn't probably use the trademark term, but I talk about pushing the easy button on payments, right? That's really the best way to describe it. So.
I got to ask you a little more on the vendor side. So important question here. So I was talking to an Acumatica customer recently, and they used to use AvidXchange for the payable side of things, and they liked that AvidXchange would also cut checks if they wanted, but they found that AvidXchange was hassling their vendors so much to make them go electronic, or really try to force them to go electronic, so they didn't have to cut that check. Do you have any kind of assurances that you could give us that you won't pester someone's vendors to make them go electronic? You're willing to use that paper mill and cut those checks if needed?
Yeah. Really, we obviously try to drive as much electronic as possible, but it only gets you so far if you use a hammer, right? If you're carrying around a hammer, everything starts to look like a nail, right? That's the best analogy to use. So, we're going to make sure that even though we're facilitating making that easy and trying to drive towards electronic, that we're adding additional value for the vendors receiving, right? And that's where it helps that we're able to provide those services on that flip side. So, in other words, we can now offer our receivable services for those vendors that need to get paid. So, if a credit card doesn't make sense for them, or a virtual credit card, and that was one of the negative things I have noted is many times, again, turn that vendor into a nail when you get carrying around that hammer, right? So our approach is really to make sure that we're making it easy, and then we that presents us with opportunities, right? Because we can turn that vendor or the merchant recipient into a potential customer. So we want to make it easy for them to do business with. And, we count a little over 110,000 vendors as part of our vendor network participating. And one of the opportunities that we see in the coming months and years is to turn those vendors that are receiving payments from our customers from the payable side into receivables customers. And so we want to make sure that they have a great experience, and that's something that they want to do.
So you'll make the offer to the vendor, but it sounds like if they say, stop bothering me, you're willing to keep cutting the checks. And part of that has to do with, tell me more about the paper mill. I'm curious, do you actually own a company that cuts down trees, or what does that involve?
No, I apologize if I didn't enunciate that clear. I said print mill.
I might have heard it wrong. Print mill, okay, not paper mill.
Yeah. So we've got a print shop. We've got a print shop that based out of Fort Worth, Texas. That print hundreds of thousands of pieces of mail and check and remittance and mail it out. And so
but it sounds like
that's
that
something
same
that we'll
philosophy.
do. Obviously.
you own the stack of the printing itself. You're not outsourcing it to another third party. That's the least glamorous part that no one wants to deal with, but you actually have that
That's
under your
right.
roof. That's encouraging.
Yeah, that's right. As well as the back end processing platform and the gateway, right? And when you talk to payments companies, a lot of times they're connecting to a third party gateway. They're also using somebody else, like a global payments or something like that, for their processing engine. We own all of our own technology, including our own gateway, including the back end processing engine. Another acquisition that we made a few years ago called TriSource. We now call that Repay Clearing and Settlement Engine. So all of the technology that you consume from us, or our customers consume from us, is technology that we control, we integrate, we build into the ERPs. That's the other thing that's a clear differentiator when you talk about. I don't like to mention competitors by name, but one of the you talked about some of these other competitors. One of the things that a lot of the ERP companies didn't care for with those types of approaches is it really took customers out of the ERP and forced them to use somebody else's technology stack and portal, right? So while we own our own technology stack, we build all of the functionality needed into our integration with the ERP system so that the client can have those payment experiences within the ERP. They don't have to worry about going to separate systems in order to manage payments. They can do that right within the ERP, within Acumatica, and not have to worry about and our integration is native to Acumatica, and of course we're certified developers, so we're always making sure that we're putting the right resources around, keeping it up to date, and doing all those things so the customers experiencing what they hope to do, which is they've chosen Acumatica for a reason, so we keep them in Acumatica and let them experience their full payment experience within it.
This might be too specific, but I know you do the payments in Acumatica, like for the accounting folks, but do you know if you're in the Acumatica customer portal yet for customers who are logging in?
So we actually, so great question. So we actually are not yet. We actually have a roadmap item. I actually just finished up a call just before I came over here to get on this broadcast, and it was our product prioritization board. And we have Acumatica customer portal targeted for our second quarter this year. So, so that'll be something we'll be launching this year.
And I would imagine with owning your whole stack, when I look at Repay, I see maybe not as bleeding edge, but a little slower moving beast, but more of a a solid platform because you control all those pieces. So you're not maybe quite as on the bleeding edge of innovation, just my total take. But when you get there, you're bringing the whole platform along with it. So you're not just dealing with a bunch of fingers and octopus tentacles. That's kind of my take when I look at a Repay. I don't know if you agree with that or not.
Well, I would say that we certainly are investing the resources to put us on the leading edge of the technology. So it was a very, very deliberate move to acquire the companies that we did because there was a presence, there within the integrated payment space. And now, our objective is to take all of the backbone, if you will, of that technology stack that we offer, which gives us that reliability that you talk about, the predictability for our customers, and then to be able to develop on top of that to say, okay, what are the next things that they need, right? I would say it's interesting because in the payment space, the probably leading edge or bleeding edge, depending on how you choose to frame it, it's been quicker to be on the consumer side of the market and into the SMB side of the market, right? So small, more of the small business, and a lot of that is because the less volume, the less transactions you have, the more manual work you can do to make sure you have the proper controls, proper accounting, reconciliation, all those types of things, right? The larger the enterprise, the more functionality you have to have around those controls, and many times those larger enterprises have been slow to move as a result. So what we've our objective is to take what has been the leading edge of technology on the small business side and really make sure that we've made it bulletproof and added all of the necessary functionality so that it can be very well consumed by the enterprise size client, and to let them participate in the digitization of their payments. So that's our vision. we think that we've got the right tool set to be able to remove a lot of the barriers that live with that.
Well, it sounds like you've had this plan in place for a while. Now maybe you're getting to the fun part of executing it, which is actually the stuff we can see as you're building out those features. I'm sure there's a lot of work that went into, getting the big pieces in place, and now you get to deliver those features that people get to see, and that's got to be exciting and gratifying.
Yes, I think it is. The most important part is that you got the right team to do it, right? So we've been adding a lot of resources to our team over the last year and a half to 2 years, and as you can imagine, in this environment of labor shortages and those things, that hasn't been easy, but it's been that's been the key. And so putting the right team in place in order to be able to execute on that plan has been necessary, and we feel like we've got the right pieces now to start doing that. So
that's awesome. Well, Darin, thanks for taking the time. Would you mind giving me a little 360 around your booth there so I can see what's going on there?
Absolutely. Yeah. So
that's a big screen.
Yeah, we've got a nice booth. We've got a couple of folks from our sales team, and so we've got a great location right across from the Acumatica.
Oh, there you go.
There, got Amma, and when you're doing this thing on the camera, it's the opposite, right? It's hard to figure out that opposite thing. So, so we're right across from the Acumatica booth, and watching the keynotes and that on the big screen over there.
Awesome.
So yeah, we've been pleased. Seems like traffic's been down a little bit from what we saw in July, but we've had some great great visits with existing customers, prospective customers, and partners, and we're really encouraged by what we see occurring with those interactions.
Awesome. Hey, thanks again for doing it from the showroom floor. I know it's noisier on your end than it is on my end. It's not that bad on my end. So I was able to hear you, and I appreciate you giving us a flavor for what it's like there at Summit this year.
Thanks so much, Tim. Appreciate it.
Take care.
Okay. All right. Bye.